96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Good morning. Prime Minister Davis hitting out at former Prime Minister Minnis on his call for tax increases. Davis suggesting the former Prime Minister is being hypocritical. F&M leader Michael Pintard says Minnis's public posture is unhelpful to F&M unity. And was your car flooded out last weekend? Are you in the market for a used car? What you need to know, we are talking about it all straight ahead this morning. I'm Dwight Strachan, and this is Morning Blend.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. It's the start of a new way. You know that it's here. It's the start of the end of the old way. Wake up.
Good morning again, Bahamas. It is Friday, May 20th, 2022. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Again, I'm Dwight Strachan. In a moment, Stephen Hanna will be joining us. Also this morning in Morning Blend Business, we've got highlights from last night's Org Bahamas Economic and Fiscal Sustainability webinar. What came out of that, what we heard from the Economic Affairs Minister, and more coming up. But first, it's time for the overnight, the latest breaking news from while we're sleeping, and the top national and international headlines this morning. In the overnight, Prime Minister Philip Davis hitting back at former Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis over his call for the government to raise taxes on the rich, assuring that his administration is taking a strategic approach to increase revenue and provide some relief for those most in need. Davis suggested Minnis was being hypocritical. He said the former Prime Minister ought to follow his own advice. Davis saying, quote, "If you've noticed, when he came to office, the very first thing he did was to reduce the taxes on the rich. Just look at the business license fees that were reduced when he came into office." Well, the Bahamas, like much of the world, has been struggling with rising consumer prices since late last year. In March, the central bank said domestic consumer price inflation rose to 2.3% in the last quarter of 2021, an increase over the 0.2% registered during the same period in 2020. The IMF has projected that consumer prices in the country will increase by 7.3% this year. The increased consumer prices coincided with the Davis administration's decision to reduce value-added tax from 12% to 10%, but reintroduce the tax on breadbasket items. The Minnis administration increased VAT from 7.5% to 12% in 2018. Office of the Prime Minister Press Secretary Clint Watson says Prime Minister Davis is in high demand because of the tough position he's taken on addressing climate change. He says the Prime Minister in his first 6 months has boldly become a leading voice in the world on climate change, and the Bahamas has taken the bold step of being a leading voice on climate change worldwide. Watson says Davis is also becoming sought after because of the revolutionary policies that he's putting in place to help the Bahamas mitigate climate change. F&M leader Michael Pintard making it clear that former Prime Minister Dr. Menes does not speak on the F&M's behalf and suggested the continued public posturing by Menes is actually working against what the F&M is seeking to achieve as an official opposition. Asked whether Menes' recent statements on various national issues and his public posturing are helpful in fostering party unity, Pintard said candidly, no, it's not. He also suggested that Menes is not being a team player. After parts of New Providence were flooded after heavy rains last weekend, the senior engineer of the Ministry of Public Works, Henry Moxey, says that the government is seeking to make use of a number of tools to remedy the issue. Moxey says part of the initiative is an aggressive maintenance program for wells and catch basins on the island, that's already underway. He said efforts are also underway to put in place drainage infrastructure in areas where drainage should have gone ahead of development. Overseas, when the U.S. and South Korean leaders meet Saturday, North Korea's nuclear weapons and missile program, already a major focus, may receive extra attention if intelligence predictions of an imminent major weapons demonstration by the North are correct. What's less clear, though, is whether the meeting between Joe Biden and newly inaugurated Yoon Suk Yeol will produce a meaningfully new way to handle a nuclear threat that has bedeviled the Allies for decades. There's worry and soul that Washington is slipping back to the Obama administration's strategic patience policy of ignoring North Korea until it demonstrates seriousness about denuclearization, an approach that was criticized for neglecting the North as it made huge strides in building its nuclear arsenal. U.S. and South Korean intelligence officials say North Korea may welcome Biden to the region with a ballistic missile test of its first detonation of a nuclear device since 2017. Biden's also expected to visit Japan. And Afghanistan's Taliban rulers have ordered all female presenters on TV channels to cover their faces on air. That's according to the country's biggest media outlet. The order came in a statement from the Taliban's Virtue and Vice Ministry, tasked with enforcing the group's rulings, as well as from the Information and Culture Ministry. The statement called the order the final and non-negotiable order. It said that the statement saying that that several other TV and radio networks, and a tweet was sent that this was being applied to other Afghan media as well. An Afghan local media official confirmed his station had received the order and was told it was not up for discussion. He said the station has no other option. Several female anchors and presenters posted their photos on social media showing them with their faces covered with face masks during presenting programs. One prominent Tolo presenter, that's one of the channels there in Afghanistan, posted a video of herself putting on a mask with the caption, quote, "A woman being erased on orders from the Virtue and Vice Ministry." During the Taliban's first time in power from 1996 to 2001, they imposed overwhelming restrictions on women, requiring them to wear the all-encompassing burqa that even covered the eyes with a mesh and barred them from public life and education. In sports, Jazz Chisholm having a superb ending to his three-game series for the Miami Marlins against the Washington Nationals. On Wednesday, he hit his 7th home run of the season and added a triple, albeit in a 5-4 loss for his team in the series finale. The Marlins won 2 out of 3 games but dropped the finale. They won 8-2 on Monday and 5-1 on Tuesday. Chisholm finishing the series 5 for 11 at the plate. Read more about it in today's Guardian Sports section. And the Bahamas Football Association has named a 22-member team for the Senior Men's National Soccer team to kick off its 2022 CONCACAF Nations League campaign on Friday, June 3rd. That's going to begin with a home match against St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That match at the Thomas A. Robinson National Stadium. Read who made the team in today's Guardian Sports section. From the NBA, the Boston Celtics rolling past the Miami Heat in Miami, 127-102 last night. They are tied now in the Eastern Conference Finals, one apiece. From the NHL, the Tampa Bay Lightning beating the Florida Panthers 2-1 in Game 2. They have a 2-0 lead in the Eastern Conference semifinals in hockey. And from baseball, Mets pitcher Max Scherzer is expected to be sidelined for 6 to 8 weeks with a strained oblique muscle in his left side. The latest blow to New York pitching staff, already missing ace Jacob deGrom. Scherzer, a 3-time Cy Young Award winner, had an MRI on Thursday, a day after he pulled himself from a start against the St. Louis Cardinals with a 1-1 count in the 6th inning after feeling a zing in his left side. That's sports, and that's the overnight. Time for your first look at weather. Weather for today. We've got a steady stream of abundant tropical moisture from the Caribbean Sea that's coupled with favorable upper-level conditions. That's going to continue to produce a wet pattern as bouts of active weather will continue over the Bahamas today. Meanwhile, a weak surface ridge across the area will intensify, generating gentle to locally fresh breezes across the country through tonight. So a lot happening, and boaters need to be alert. The threat of waterspouts is there, especially during the afternoon, and beachgoers in the central and southeast Bahamas should exercise caution due to the risk of rip currents, mainly along eastern and southern shorelines. And everybody in low-lying and flood-prone areas should be taking special precautions during heavy and prolonged rainfall events. For today, for all areas, your forecast calls for mostly cloudy, warm, and humid conditions with scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms, becoming variably cloudy and warm with isolated showers and lingering thunderstorms tonight. Expect breezy conditions in the central and southeast Bahamas by tonight. And again, showers may be locally heavy and thunderstorms strong to severe at times, especially during the afternoon and early evening hours. Smallcraft caution will come into effect for the central and southeast Bahamas tonight. Expect gusty winds and higher seas and showers and heavy thunderstorms. Wind southeast to south at 10 knots or less, occasionally falling light and variable at times in the northwest Bahamas. Seas will also east to southeast at 15 to 50 knots today, increasing to 15 to 20 knots by tonight in the central and southeastern islands. Seas 1 to 3 feet in the northwestern Bahamas, but building to 4 to 6 feet across the remainder of the islands. We are at about 80 degrees right now in Nassau. Light rain in some parts of New Providence. Look for highs getting to around 87 Fahrenheit, 30 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight getting down to about 75 Fahrenheit, 24 Celsius. That's your first look at weather this morning. We'll have an extended outlook coming up after traffic in just a bit.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
It is time for a break, but when we come back, we're discussing the day's top stories right here on Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9, your home for fresh news and smart talk all day.
Around the world, Cleveland Clinic is recognized as a leader in healthcare. Our team of experts relentlessly pursues the best for our patients. From groundbreaking cancer research to state-of-the-art heart surgery, life-saving innovations happen here every day. When it's time to travel for your health, it's time to travel to Cleveland Clinic. Your destination for care, for every care in the world. To learn more, visit clevelandclinic.org/Caribbean.
I bank wherever I want thanks to Scotia Online and Mobile. I bank from my garden. I bank from my living room. I also bank from my kitchen. No need to wait in line. Now when I bank with Scotia, I bank on my own time. Seniors, you too can bank your way any time of day without ever going into a branch. Find out more. To get started, visit bs.scotiabank.com/digital seniors.
Scan on Bahamas, it's your boy Sawyer Boy. COVID is clearly unpredictable. It doesn't matter how young you are, how old you are. I'm young, and it still put a beating on me. I had no other option but to go to the hospital. I remember the doctor telling me if I had waited one more day, I wasn't gonna come inside here alive. You don't wanna be in the same position that I was in. Vaccines may not stop you from getting COVID, but it can stop you from getting COVID the way I had COVID. You don't want that way.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. It's the start of a new way. You know that it's the start of the end of the old way. Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Welcome back to Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9. We are streaming live on GuardianTalkRadio.com and on the Guardian Radio app for smart devices. We're also on your televisions on Cable Bahamas Channel 969 and BTC Flow Channel 612. You can tweet us at Morning Blend 969 or Facebook.com/MorningBlend969. Text us 422-4796. Remember, standard text rates apply. Once again, I'm Dwight Strachan. In a moment, Stephen Hanna will be joining us. We'll give you the phone numbers to call in just a bit as well. Coming up this morning, more weather and traffic. And in our 7 and 8 o'clock hour, we're going to be talking about what happened last weekend. The flooded streets that we saw, many cars stranded and many cars left floating in water. Some folks are going to be hoping they can salvage those vehicles. Will it be worth it? And others are going to try to sell them to you. What you need to look out for if you are in the market for a car at this time. And we're going to be talking with the insurance industry about what you need to do if you are trying to claim on that vehicle or purchase a vehicle that has been damaged. All that you need to know this morning. Later in Morning Blend Business, we've got highlights from last night's ORC Bahamas Economic and Fiscal Sustainability webinar. Economic Affairs Minister Mike Alakita is giving some hints as to what we can expect with the budget presentation set for next week, Wednesday. So that's coming up as well. But let's begin with what else is in the news. And in the news, we're talking a lot about former Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis. Isn't that something? So he's getting it from all sides. All sides. Prime Minister Davis hitting back at him for what he was suggesting about increasing taxes on the rich to help alleviate the inflationary pressures on the poor. We had some comments about that yesterday on the show. And now F&M leader Michael Pintard is saying something that should have been said a long time ago, if you ask me, about Minnis's public posturing and how this is unhelpful to F&M unity. We'll get to the Prime Minister and what he had to say in just a bit. Just want to read to you a bit of what Pintard said to our Candia Dames in this article on the front page of the National Guardian. Free National Movement leader Michael Pintard making it clear that former Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis does not speak on the F&M's behalf and suggested the continued public posturing by Minnis is actually working against what the F&M is seeking to achieve as an official opposition. Asked whether Minnis's recent statements on various national issues and his public posturing are helpful in fostering party unity, Pintard said candidly, quote, "No, it is not." He also suggested that Minnis is not being a team player. Pintard told us, The Guardian, quote, "He is speaking for himself in terms of ongoing consultations, etc. I reach out to him as a member of the caucus in terms of periodically running things by him. The reverse does not happen." Pintard also says there's a lesson that former leaders can learn from the behavior of other former leaders from both major political parties. Pintard pointed to former Prime Minister Hubert Ingraham, who has remained in the background after his time as Prime Minister. And while not naming former Prime Minister Perry Christie, he also noted that the former Progressive Liberal Party leader has been doing the same. Pintard said, quote, "It is a wonderful model for other leaders who have recently left office and those who will leave office in the future to follow. There is a convention on how you behave as a former leader." Asked whether he thinks Minnis has been operating within that established convention, Pintard says, quote, "I'm going to leave you to draw that conclusion." As you may recall, Pintard became leader of the F&M last November, just over 2 months after the F&M suffered a major election defeat under Minnis's leadership. Unlike Ingraham in 2012, however, Minnis, who won his Killarney seat, did not bow out of frontline politics, though he suffered a significant loss of support in his constituency. Minnis has determined to continue to serve in opposition. He's been speaking out on various national issues, often blasting the current Prime Minister, Philip Davis, and the Davis-led administration on their policies. This week, the Prime Minister, or former Prime Minister Minnis, called on the government to raise taxes on the rich to help poor people grappling with inflation. Pintard says the F&M is an inclusive organization that still benefits from the contributions of members who may not be as active as they once were. All right, let's get your reaction to this before we get to what Prime Minister Davis had to say about Minnis. Give us a call, 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us, 422-4796. Want to hear from you on this. And the article mentions how Minnis did win his seat and is still in the House. But we've had both former Prime Ministers Ingraham and Christie, who, when they lost the government, remained in the House, and they also didn't quite, well, they were opposition leaders, so that's a little bit different, I guess. There was a time when Ingraham wasn't. And we didn't see this quite like this at all. So let's get your views. Again, 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us, 422-4796. Caller, good morning. You're on Morning Blend.
Good morning, Glenn, and thanks for taking my call.
Yes, good morning.
There is a psychological name for this condition, you know. It's called, and you can look it up. I mean, I'm not making this up. It's called a diminished sense of danger. People like them cannot lead. And we see a similar...
Cannot lead or leave?
Lead, L-E-A-D.
Mm-hmm.
They don't speak directly to issues. They try to talk around it, and there lies confusion because people who you may be giving instructions to get the wrong impression because you have no fear, but they scared. But anyway, people like them shouldn't lead, and this is the reason why they are where they are.
Now, who's the people you're talking about? Because there's a lot of people
who
we
suffer
mentioned.
from this diminished sense of danger, a diminished sense of danger.
Okay, who in
I
this?
think our former prime minister fit that
Oh,
characterization.
I see. Okay. All right.
All right?
Uh-huh.
it.
Can we figure that out before we elect them?
Well, you
Or-
see, this is why you need to have this little thing called persons trying to elevate themselves in the intellectual world so that they can see these personal traits. These are characteristics that's in all of us, you know. You see these guys who are taking a gun and same thing. They have a diminished sense of danger. We'll be lucky you got rid of that, man. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Let's take another call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Dwight. How you doing?
Doing well.
Good. You know, I normally don't really debate on certain things, but let me make my 5 cents morning. What our Constitution say? Freedom of speech, freedom of movement, and freedom of association. And I know, and this caller there, he get one eye or one arm. See, I the person believe in Bahamas being the place. Documents have the right to talk. I got the right to talk. Dwight, you have the right to talk. When you make a statement, say something, that don't mean I have to agree with you. Know. That don't mean you have to be right. This is why I don't call certain talk shows. But you get beat before and he came back. But the prime minister ain't gonna get beat before and he came back. So what are you talking about? That's why some call it convention every 2 years. The FNM party have a convention. So people gotta be careful what they saying. And all these FNM who quiet and making noise, you all sit your backside down and you come with the work. Every excuse in the world because they hate Dr. Minutes. And my good friend Dwight and Michael, boy, you all got plenty way to do because I ain't getting getting cussed for nobody. You all bring your dark backside and walk the street
What?
and get cussed and help the people.
JJ, come on. Now you know that. Come on, you and people call this show every day and say something, and 2 months later, a politician says it, and all of a sudden it's on the front page of the paper. So it depends on who says certain things, right? So Menace is not a regular citizen, no matter how many would wish that he were. He's not, and so you can't say that. What he says is going to hold weight. It will, or people will pay attention to it. And this is what Pintar was asked about. Is it undermining the party? Because sometimes what he says is controversial and eyebrow-raising and not quite gelling with what we're hearing from other FNMs. And Pintar is saying it, that he doesn't run what he's saying by them. And that's a problem. That's a problem. We're going to hear that now when the Prime Minister's talking about responding to what he said about raising the taxes when he did the complete opposite when he was in charge. I think we've got Stephen Hanna with us. Good morning, sir. Are you there? Yes. Welcome. Good morning. Can barely hear you. There we go. Okay, are you there?
I'm there.
Oh,
I'm there.
yes. Welcome. All right, we got some more calls coming in. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, hello?
Hi.
Yeah, your last caller is getting bitter and bitter every day. What he's got to do is, he says he's got his right to call on the show, and we've all got opinions. Well, then respect the people's opinion that caller that is opposing to you. Okay, you're all in the same party, but you've got different views. You know, as a country, we must grow, we must build. You know, look forward for a better and a greater day tomorrow, even though you wish that the older folks must hurry up, get off the scene. And, you know, it seems as if you're a bit ungrateful, but that's okay, too, you know. But as a country, we must grow, listen to each other, and move forward. Thanks for letting me share.
Okay, thank you very much. And another call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, good morning, Dwight.
Hi.
Morning.
Hey, Dwight. I believe the statement that Mr. Pintar made was a good one, but I think it should have been earlier, in my view. Because, while Ms. Dr. Menace and everybody has the right to speak, right, I believe that Dr. Menace being who he was and bringing the FNM down to where it is, he shouldn't be inside the forefront full of opinions, speaking contrary to what the FNM is saying, because when he was inside the seat, he was running from the microphone, and now he's always there. But when it comes to the constituency, I hope that this statement represents for punishment for Dr. Minister in the form that he wouldn't get a nomination because at the end of the day, Kalani, you could put anybody in Kalani, and I think the Free National Movement will win that seat because Dr. Minister can't win a seat out of Kalani. Guys,
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. All right. Let's get to some of these text messages here. Someone says, Mr. Davis is in the Prime Minister's seat now. We want to know what he is going to do for struggling and poor Bahamians, particularly in terms of food. Minnis is not in that position anymore, so stop calling Davis with all the talk and back and forth, lead man lead. So stop stalling Davis with all the talk. Okay. We'll get to what he said in just a bit. This person here says, Dwight, Miami won that game and Boston lost. Yeah? Which game were you watching? Which one? When you talking about Tuesday night?
In spirit.
Maybe, or maybe they're talking about a baseball game. I don't know. But okay, sure. Another one here. It seems like some media houses want discord within the F&M because y'all keep sticking a mic in his face. Most do not wish to hear his voice. Oh. Dwight, why didn't you tell us that the Prime Minister invited Prince Charles and William for our independence? We were telling you. Heard you. I don't know why you didn't hear that. Where have you been? Anyway, they go on to say, I guess we'll foot the bill for that too. This dark day crew is all about partying and the jet-setting life. Well, it is our 50th anniversary, so. But yes, that was clearly stated that they and we were told that they have agreed to come, right? So, yeah. Anyway, this one says here, it's unfortunate Pintard had to make that statement. Minnis has every right to speak. Isn't the press seeking him out? Pintard must hone his skills and find a way. Hone, I think they're trying to say. Okay, hone his skills and find a way.
Horn.
What? Like a trumpet? Blow it out louder so everyone can hear you.
Right. Or bore people.
Well, why would a horn do it? What? People like horns? No? Oh, okay.
So you get bored with a horn. Like
you can't go to sleep with the horn blowing all the time.
No, not that type of horn, like a goat or a bull.
Okay.
So it's a play on words.
I see. Oh, boy. And take this call, then we're going to get to what the Prime Minister is saying. Good morning. You're on the air.
Morning, Dwight.
Hi.
Steve and all those. Yeah, listen, I have no problem with anyone speaking out as long as it's in line with your party and everything is positive. I have no problem with that. If it's contrary, that's a different thing. But I think everybody have a right to speak. But make sure it's positive and make sure it's in line with your party, whatever. You have former prime ministers that could speak their mind on certain issues,
Okay.
So, yeah. Okay.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, everyone has the right to speak, sure. But as I've said many times before, you are speaking out on things that you could have influenced if you had not called an early election. If the election had been this month, half the things you spoke out about you could have addressed or set out to address.
Also, you're making it look like just confusion. I mean, and because the thing is, as long as you are talking, even if the former, for example, let's say the former general manager of Guardian Radio was always the first person to respond to everything about Guardian Radio, it would seem like the former general manager is the one making all the decisions since he's saying everything first, even if it was in complete agreement with whatever the present general manager is saying.
Yeah.
So it's a sense of confusion because it's like, oh, well, then are you in charge? Because you're still talking. And the only reason why you have access to the office key is because of your former position. Like, but are we going to have to change the locks or to get this to stop?
Yeah, I think so. Do it. Change the lock. Absolutely. All right. So he's getting it from Pintard, and he's getting it from the Prime Minister Davis, heading out at Minnis on what he had to say about increasing taxes on the rich to help the poor. For more on that, take a listen to this report from our Berthany McDermott.
he needs to take his own advice.
On Wednesday, former Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis insisted government isn't working effectively to combat inflation. Asked about the issue ahead of the weekly parliamentary session, Dr. Minnis suggested that the Davis administration tax the rich to help the poor. Today, the Prime Minister reminiscing on decisions Dr. Minnis made while in office that didn't favor the less fortunate.
And if you notice, when he came to office, the very first thing he did was to reduce the taxes on rich. Just look at the business license fees that he reduced when he came into office. All businesses earning, I think, over $50 million had a tax break. He needs to take his own counsel. We are, and you will see, when we present our budget.
His comments come as residents have been expressing concern about the rapidly increasing cost of living, and After Works Minister Alfred Sears said power bills could increase. In fact, today, Bahamas Petroleum Retailers Association Vice President Vasco Bastian said he expects gas prices to increase to $6.48 at Esso. Davis reiterated that his government has a plan to fight inflation, which he says will be revealed next week.
Dollars had a tax break. He needs to take his own counsel. We are, and you will see, when we present our budget, the efforts and initiatives we're taking in respect to inflation, and in respect to looking at what taxes we could be raised to assist us in our efforts going forward.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Okay, let's get your reaction to that there. Give us a call, 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us, 4796. All right. And this is what happens, right? You come out with saying things like that, and people remember, of course, what you did. The things that you said you were going to do that you didn't do. And now you're talking. And you're talking more than you were talking to the media when you were the prime minister. What's that all about? What are you doing? We couldn't find you. You shoot us away. You kept talking about how you'd go and make boiled fish. And now you've got all the answers.
Sorry, not boiled, stew.
Stew? You sure it wasn't a boiled one time?
No, it was stew.
Always
stew fish.
Oh,
because
okay.
see, boiled fish is like that's poverty. That's the height of poverty.
What
Like,
now? You need to watch your mouth. You know how much boiled fish is?
Yeah, because you are not making it. Because you're purchasing it, Dwight. It is cheaper to make boiled fish than to make stew fish.
Oh dear.
It's like there's at least 4 more steps that makes it more labor intensive, but also there are way more ingredients. Boiled fish is literally seasoning, onions, fish, and water.
I see. Well, I can see why he wouldn't like it, because you can see through boiled fish. And then the stew, it's murky. You don't know what's in there. And so that would be the thing. Yeah.
Right. Well, stew is actually is repurposing food. It's oil fried fish that you just put gravy on top of. But I thought it was funny when Prime Minister Philip
Davis
was,
yes,
we have to say the whole name, Prime Minister Davis. All right, when he's like he should follow his own advice, is like to deflate, because it's like to stop inflation. So Minnis needs to deflate himself.
Well, that was a weird way to put it, right? Because, I mean, what is he going to do? He's not in a position to do anything. Are you expecting him to return? When he comes back, he should follow his advice?
He should tax himself because he's rich.
Ah, okay.
Or something like that.
Donate all his money to the poor. Yes, perhaps. Okay.
Right. Like Christ says, if you get everywhere else, go just give your money to the poor and just come roll with me.
Yeah, very nice. All right, let's take this call. Good morning, call. What do you think of that?
Dwight, good morning, guest.
Hi.
Hey, Dwight, isn't it the same Dr. Minnis who tried to raise the taxes on the life of key homeowners, and as soon as they acquiesced what he did, okay, they put a stop to that. He couldn't even collect the gaming taxes.
Yeah.
All right, he's just trying to remain relevant, okay? He's a hypocrite. He'd go on, he's saying everything he couldn't do. So he needs to stop.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, some more of your messages here. Oh, boy. Okay. I'm happy that the New Day government is not in a hurry to propose a commercial enterprises bill that obliterates the small man, nor an O-ban bill. But so much political activity is deja vu, tit for tat. Another text. Does Dr. Minnis approach the media or does the media approach Dr. Minnis? Wanting his input in a case. We cannot fully blame him. The media should know who to speak to if they want a proper response from the leadership of that party.
I feel like so on one hand, yes, we can say the media shouldn't, constantly be going after him, putting the mic in his face. Sure, by all means. But as an adult human person on this planet, I feel like you should be able to realize when you're doing more, if you intend to do good and you're not just trying to, as the former caller say, remain relevant and keep your face out there so that, I don't know, maybe you could sell a book in the future or something, that you probably should not participate in this. And like you did a great job for 4.5 years, however long it was, of not answering questions. And now suddenly you have all the answers. And what I was going to say is in a weird sort of way, I feel like we may be forced into a new era of Bahamian politics where because the FNM's leader isn't the previous leader, they're not allowed to just slip into I just disagree with everything you say, and we were doing it differently. Because one, the FNM has now agreed that they didn't do things the right way. And they cannot just outright contradict the PLP. They have to actually either say, okay, we will watch to see if this makes sense, or present an actual viable third option. Mm-hmm. So like now we might finally be getting away from the whole, I'm just being the opposition for the sake of being the opposition, and actually be what the opposition is supposed to be. I mean, that's my hope.
Okay. Here's a text. Minnis is carry on. Okay. Just like Donald Trump. You see what has happened in the U.S. with Donald Trump, with his lies. He's hurting the party like how Donald is doing, Donald Trump is doing to the party.
As the leader of the Republicans.
Really,
I don't know
it
what
certainly looks so. Yeah. And that clearly, I don't know if it's clear, but one has to wonder if that is not the objective of Minnis to try, because they will have another convention before a general election, and is that what he's trying to do?
He's gonna be like, Pintardi ain't aggressive enough, and it's like, because everything don't require you screaming it with a hammer. Mm-hmm. Like sometimes you can admit that where you made a misstep, because that's the only way to do the right thing. But I mean, if once again your intention is just to be seen and to be accepted and loved by a wider community as opposed to doing the right thing, then by all means, continue on. Soldier on.
This text here says, Minnis silenced members of his party in Parliament who spoke out against some of his decisions, but now he doesn't want to toe the line. Isn't that interesting? Well, practice what you preach. That's what the Prime Minister Davis is saying to him. Oh, boy.
You want Pintardi to kick him out of the FNM? You can't get him out of the House Assembly. So I'm just saying, like, what would you like?
Want him to stop talking. Say, why don't you ask the leader that? But I know what we did, and that's that. But for...
Not just I know what we did. You know what we did. It was like, it's a matter of history. It's not a matter of like you can question what is the present government doing, because it hasn't happened yet. It's in process. So like policy is being made and it's happening. But we know what former administrations did because it already happened. Mm-hmm. So like,
well, that's one way the media will get bored. If every time we come to you, it's a history lesson, they'll stop coming to you. Do that. And this text before we go, is there, I don't know what that question is here. This administration was talking, partying, and traveling with very little result in terms of reducing the high cost of everything since they won the government. It's time to lead and govern. Okay. We'll be back with more on this Friday morning. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9.
Drinking rum, 'cause we have been fun. We gon' live it up till the weekend done. 'Cause we come to dance till we leave the sun. I gon' live it up. From Nassau, we gon' jet to FBO.
is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
7:39, time for your first look at traffic for this morning, brought to you by RBC. For all of life's moments, there's one Visa Classic credit card. Just a reminder, we're expecting more rain today and could see more flooding on the streets, so keep that in mind as you make your way about this morning. Right now, in your real-time traffic, we are seeing heavy traffic on Milo Butler Highway in the northbound lanes from Fire Trail all the way up to Tonic Williams-Darling Highway. Gladstone Road also busy for you, but slightly better alternate route for you this morning, with traffic just about midway between Fire Trail and JFK Drive. Building traffic on Carmichael westbound. We're seeing a long line stretching to the Coral Harbor Road roundabout. Eastbound, some building traffic on Carmichael to Blue Hill Road. Blue Hill Road is busy for you just north of Soldier Road in the northbound lanes to Independence Drive at this hour. Elsewhere, Bernard Road near the schools in the area, already seeing some heavy traffic there westbound, and pockets along Prince Charles Drive at the major intersections, and along Marathon Road northbound heading to the roundabout with Wolf Road. That's what we're seeing right now. That's your real-time traffic and your morning blend traffic alert, brought to you by RBC. Experience cashless purchasing power and chip and pin security with your RBC Visa Classic credit card. Manage your day-to-day expenses and apply today at rbc.com/Caribbean/Visa Classic. And time for another check of your weather for today, brought to you by BTC. We've got a steady stream of abundant tropical moisture from the Caribbean Sea, coupled with favorable upper-level conditions that will continue to produce a wet pattern, as well as bouts of active weather across the country. Meanwhile, a weak surface ridge across the area will intensify as well, and that's going to generate some fresh and strong breezes across the country. Again, warnings are in place for boaters to remain alert for possible waterspout activity, especially during the afternoon hours. And beachgoers in the central and southeast Bahamas should exercise caution due to the risk of rip currents, mainly along eastern and southern shorelines. And as we said, there could be flooding in flood-prone and low-lying areas during heavy and prolonged rainfall events. For all areas today, your forecast calls for mostly cloudy, warm, and humid conditions with scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms, becoming variably cloudy and warm with isolated showers and lingering thunderstorms tonight. Also expect breezy conditions in the central and southeast Bahamas by tonight, and again, showers may be locally heavy and thunderstorms, strong to severe at times. Small craft caution will come into effect for the central and southeast Bahamas by tonight. Temperatures today getting up to around 87 Fahrenheit, 30 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight getting down to 75 Fahrenheit, 24 Celsius. In your extended outlook, the moisture profile across the country will progressively decrease, with lingering moisture continuing to produce occasional pops of showers and thunderstorms throughout the weekend. So for Saturday, tomorrow, variably cloudy and warm with isolated showers and the chance of isolated thunderstorms. Sunday, partly cloudy and warm with widely scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms. That's your morning blend weather check, brought to you by BTC. With BTC Business, you get more than reliable business connectivity. We give you the smart solutions you need to reinvent your business and thrive. You can come back stronger and more connected than ever before. BTC knows that running a business is more than a full-time job. With their new 24/7 digital help desk, they're standing by to solve any technical issue you may encounter in getting the job done. Call BTC at 302-7200 or visit business.btcbahamas.com.
Switch for better when you move your mortgage to Scotiabank.
Leave behind that old mortgage plan and open the door to a low interest rate. No payments for up to 2 months and cash back of 2.5% of the mortgage amount up to US $10,000. And guess what? It gets better. Apply for your Scotiabank credit card and enjoy a low 9.99% introductory rate for the first 6 months. Switch for better and upgrade your mortgage today with Scotiabank. Offer ends June 30th, 2022.
Technology serves to make our lives better, so why not your business too? At Custom Computers, we've been maintaining our knowledge and relationships with top tech companies since 1987 and carry only the most trusted brands like Apple, Microsoft, HP, and more. No company has helped more businesses build reliable IT systems than Custom Computers. You name it, we've done it. Call 396-1101 to talk to any of our business experts. Find trust in your tech. Count on Custom Computers.
Tired of banks forcing you to use technology to bank the way they want you to? Your convenience is important. So no matter what your banking needs, Commonwealth Bank's friendly staff are always available in branch for that personal one-on-one service. But when you choose technology, our online and mobile banking app offers you state-of-the-art functionality. The choice is yours. Commonwealth Bank. Bank the way you want.
This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news, intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversation. 96.9 FM.
And I say, boy, my island's in the sun, 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 sun. Bring it up now. And I say, boy, my island's in the sun. Carnival time is here. 'Cause when I turn to party, this joker they got me wet. So, boy, my island's in the sun. Carnival time is here. We got me big and straight, winding up and misbehaving. Give me the cowbells, give me the drums. We're gonna party, party till the morning come. Y'all wind up your waist, like you come to mash up the place. It's the heat carnival, and I say, boy, my island's in the sun. Carnival time is here, 'cause when I turn to party.
We're back here with Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan along with Stephen Hanna. Coming up in a few minutes, if your car was flooded out this past weekend, what do you do with it? Or if you're going to buy a used car this weekend, what do you need to look out for so that you don't buy a wet lemon? We'll talk about that in a bit and what you need to know in terms of insurance as well. In just a moment, I want to get through a few more of your messages here. Somebody says, I don't know why you're saying this message. Okay, well, that's just great. This one, oh boy. Clint Watson says that Brave Davis is in high demand, so that justifies the frequent travel. If Talking Fool was a person, that's what they're saying there. Well, we are hoping that that we all benefit from that. We want to see in the budget presentation the Prime Minister backing up all the tough talk, right? Let's see. There are lots of things people have been calling for, and we want to see. So we will be watching patiently next week. So, yeah. All right. So some other things have been said. The Prime Minister taking part in the Cat Island Business Outlook yesterday and talking about infrastructure on the Family Islands, including the area he represents in the House, Cat Island, Rum Key, and San Salvador. Take a listen to this report from our Jasmine Brown.
The Prime Minister was delivering opening remarks during the latest Business Outlook Forum when he outlined his administration's plans.
My government appreciates this and has an aggressive public works program. Seawalls, bridges, schools, clinics, hospitals, docking facilities, harbors, and airports have to be built and maintained to support new business developments.
Davis also told attendees of Cat Island Business Outlook that the government must learn from painful lessons of the past when it comes to ensuring that the right infrastructure is in place.
We must not allow weighty political considerations to become a stumbling block to progress and growth, to the detriment of our people and their livelihoods.
As is the case on many of the Family Islands, infrastructure works are needed on Cat Island, which is a part of the constituency the Prime Minister represents in Parliament. In the last few years, the state of Cat Island's airport has been a point of concern for residents, particularly since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. Ahead of the general election, photos showing the poor state of the airport in New Bight circulated. At the time, as opposition leader, Davis blamed the Minnis administration for abandoning the islands. While Davis did not address specific plans for the airport, he pointed to the need to prevent infrastructure from deteriorating.
And the construction of new public infrastructure and superstructures represent critical support services and investment opportunities through public-private sector partnerships to buttress economic growth and development.
Reporting for Guardian News Network, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Okay, we know a lot of work needs to be done on the Family Islands, indeed. All right, and tell us what you think about that. Give us a call, 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us, 422-4796. And that's going to lead us to what we heard at the press briefing yesterday, the Office of Prime Minister press briefing about the challenges with flooding here in New Providence and what's going to be done to tackle that. Well, we'll get to that in a moment, but let's hear what you have to say. Here again, 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us, 422-4796. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Mr. Strachan.
Hi, good morning.
Very good. You like this topic? Yeah, I like this topic and everything about it. You know, this topic about migration and how some of us gonna end up on some of these family islands. You know, we want infrastructure in place. You know, where we go put our homes. You know, what trees we leave in place, what ecosystem we leave in place, things like that. And like Prime Minister said, we have to take some more infrastructure for ships and things coming in and all of that. But at the same time, we also got to try and separate things. We need infrastructure for human people also. We need people who are human, who are swear to the flag, who's the beginning, because they want to see progress.
You're very low, caller. We can barely hear you.
Yeah, I was saying, you know, who want to be behemoth, who want to see the progress, you know. It's progress. That's what we looking for. We looking to prosper and progress. So, in other words, we need to make sure the behemoth progress as a nation progress.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Yep. Absolutely. So, as you said, in a few minutes, we're going to be talking about the flooding and what that did to vehicles. Before we get to that, though, take a listen to what was said yesterday about plans to fix the flooding issues in New Providence. Some big plans were announced. And take a listen to this report from our media partners with Our News, and this report from Kendino Knowles.
Well, as bad weather conditions continues to dump inches of rain here in the capital, the Ministry of Works and Utilities revealing plans to remediate flooding in several flood-prone areas. It's welcome news for residents and motorists following a system last Friday that dumped more than 12 inches of rain in the space of 24 hours on New Providence, causing massive flooding in western areas. Senior engineer for civil design Henry Moxie explains while several methods of removing water from streets are already employed, new measures are being looked at.
We also look at box drain system that we're also looking to implement that will go into areas where you have wetlands, roadway that borders wetland, allow there being that balanced flow. Fishing Hole Road is an ideal example. Anytime the water could not pass through a small opening, pass through that volume going through a small, it always overtop. So you have to establish a balance as to how you can move that water successfully from one side to the next. We're looking at a prototype system which is soon to be taking effect in the Pinewood Garden community. It's called the Aqua Drain Storm Brick System. And as you can see, that's the inlet, the membrane that will be placed under the park in Pinewood. So we won't be taking away any land space, usable land space. The WarPro system is what we call a backflow valve. That there would allow tide water to remain beneath the surface.
Moxie says fixing Pinewood's historic and notorious flooding is a priority, and the Ministry of Works is ready to move on remediation measures when approvals are given. Minister of Works and Utilities Alfred Sears telling reporters the work will be done over the span of 3 years and will likely require both government and grant funding through multilateral agencies.
We have assembled a team to look at our building code. Just beginning in this budget, we will have funding in there to get us moving on this path. It may have to be supplemented in the course of the year, but each year there will be an increase of that amount so that within 3 years, we also, within the ministry, will have monitoring so that we can scientifically document.
All right, Candino knows with our news with that report there. All right, what do you make of that? We've been hearing a lot about this for a long time. Pinewood Gardens, every 5 years, some new story, a new plan to do something. But I mean, yet here we are.
There was a plan last time?
There was a lot of talk.
I don't remember. I mean, I remember none. But anyway, but if you say so. I'm interested to see this membrane situation.
Yeah. There are areas that we know, even with light rain, it's going to flood. It's going to happen. There's some spots at West Bay Street, some spots east, Prince Charles, massive flooding. And every single year.
That's because that's a combination of different issues. That honestly, the only sure thing that anyone can do is to adjust the human behavior in the area as opposed to trying to, terraform. It's like between the water table rising and the area already being super saturated because it was waterlogged in the first place because it was swamps and stuff. The only real thing you can start doing is, we need to stop building directly on the land, and your door can't be parallel with the road. Like everyone building from this point forward needs to build at least, like you should have the step up to your door no matter where you live. And so like that's where we are, and that's where we are rapidly getting to.
Well, I'm not sure you're talking about the same areas I'm talking about.
No, you're talking about downtown.
No, I'm not talking about downtown. I'm talking about East Prince Charles, West Bay Street. There are a couple of spots where they are basins essentially, and they are always flooding. We did need 30 inches of rain for them to flood, and that happens.
You're saying it's a basin, like it's a depression?
It floods. If you poured a soda on the ground, it'll flood. And it continues to happen, and we're not addressing it. Something needs to be done. That's what I'm saying. And we just every year, people are, right, somebody's trying to make it through the water, and their car cuts off and starts floating. And it continues to happen, and every year we see it. We see the damage, and nothing is being done. Hopefully, with what we just heard in that report, this will be the end of that type of chaos. But we will see. Let's see if we can squeeze this call in really quickly before we break for the news and then get to our guests. Good morning, call. You're on the air.
Yeah, Dwight, Stephen, good morning.
Hi.
I heard what Mr. Moxie said, but the Curl Harbor roundabout heading north after the plaza, that's the easy fix. That road is just too low. All they have to do is to raise that road a little higher. It's on level with the swamp. There are many roads that they go and they pave, and I don't know what type of inspectors they have there. If you're going to pave a road, you know that's going to flood. Just raise the road a little bit. And it's very frustrating. Under all administrations, that's been happening. Where are the inspectors of the Ministry of Works? I'm a common man driving every day. It's frustrating. Okay?
My question is there are there people living on the sides of the road? Because then the water wouldn't settle in the road, it'll pour off into the
you
houses.
just can't raise it.
That was the issue with Charles Saunders Highway.
Yeah.
Where everybody complained when they built it because it's like, oh, the road too high. Now all our houses are flooded.
Yeah, that is not as simple as it looks, caller. That's what happens there. The water will find somewhere else to go, and often it'll be even more catastrophic than what you saw before. So a lot to think about. But again, if you lost a car in the flooded waters, what do you do? We're going to be talking about that coming up. Stay tuned.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
Welcome back to Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9. We are streaming live on GuardianTalkRadio.com and on the Guardian Radio app for smart devices. We're also on your televisions on Cable Bahamas Channel 969 and BTC Flow Channel 612. You can tweet us at MorningBlend969 or Facebook.com/MorningBlend969. Text us 422-4796. And now at 8:18, it's time for another check of your weather for today. Brought to you by Bahamas First Insurance. Here's what's happening. We've got a steady stream of abundant tropical moisture from the Caribbean, coupled with favorable upper-level conditions. That's going to continue to produce a wet pattern as bouts of active weather will continue over the Bahamas. Meanwhile, weak surface ridging across the area will intensify, producing gentle to strong breezes across the country today. Boaters should be alert for possible waterspout conditions, especially during the afternoon hours, and beachgoers in the central southeast Bahamas should exercise caution. Again, motorists and residents should be alert for flooding in flood-prone areas during heavy rainfall. For today, we're expecting mostly cloudy, warm, and humid conditions with scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms. Look for highs getting up to around 87 Fahrenheit, 30 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight getting down to about 75 Fahrenheit, 24 Celsius. That's your Morning Blend weather check, brought to you by Bahamas First Insurance. Still the first and only local insurance company and agency network that lets you buy car and home insurance 100% online. Try it at bahamasfirst.com. And we've got another check of your traffic for this morning, brought to you by RBC. For all of life's moments, there's one Visa Classic credit card. In your real-time traffic this morning, we are still seeing the heavy traffic on Mile Butler Highway from Fire Trail up to Tonic Williams Darling Highway. That's in northbound lanes. Glaston Road also busy for you, just north of Fire Trail on the way to JFK Drive. Carmichael Road westbound, heavy traffic there on the way to the Coral Harbor Road roundabout. And we're still seeing some traffic on Windsor Field Road, both directions. There are some areas that have been seeing some flooded streets, and so keep that in mind. And also West Bay Street near Love Beach, you're going to be seeing heavy traffic there as there's some flooded areas that's causing traffic to back up quite a bit in that area. West Bay Street near Nassau Street, seeing some heavy traffic there. As we head into downtown, that's affecting both directions. And then in eastern New Providence, Eastern Road, west of Foxhill Road, we're seeing building traffic between there and Johnson Road and Bernard Road, westbound, and Soldier Road as you approach the intersection with Bernard, Village, and Wolf. Marathon northbound also busy for you this morning. Independence Drive eastbound to the roundabout with East-West Highway and East Street. And East Street between that roundabout and Soldier Road also congested for you this morning. And Blue Hill Road just north of Soldier Road on the way to the roundabout with Independence Drive. Those are your hot spots. That's your real-time traffic and your morning blend traffic alert brought to you by RBC. Experience cashless purchasing power and chip and pin security with your RBC Visa Classic credit card. Manage your day-to-day expenses and apply today at rbc.com/Caribbean/Visa Classic.
This is Guardian Radio, 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
Soak it up, hey, hey, hey. Turn it up, hey, hey, hey. Every year we come for the festival, all the fun on the road, dancing in the sun. In Bahamas, a jump canoe carnival, we rush till morning. And we are shouting down, so raise up your hand and let we run up and down. Get charged, up on the music, so come the culture.
We're back here with Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan along with Stephen Hanna. And as we've been saying, that rain from Friday caused a lot of problems. A lot of people trying to make it through those flooded streets, stalling out Saturday morning as well. And some of the streets are still flooded. And people are still trying to get their little cars through it. And it's causing a lot of problems. And we've got a lot of cars that are probably ruined. Here to talk about this, what to do if you were one of those folks, and if you, for some reason, think you're going to try to sell that to somebody, what somebody on the other end needs to know about buying a flood-damaged vehicle, potential lemon there. So lots of information needed here, and we're going to get it from our guest from Bahamas First and First Response. We've got Vice President of Underwriting, Kevin Hudson, and Claims Manager with First Response, Travis Donald, and Supervisor of Customer Service for Motor, Cedric Smith. Gentlemen, great to have you with us. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
It's a pleasure talking with you. All right, so just from this past week, what have you been seeing? You've been getting a lot of claims. A lot of people been coming to you. What has this 7-day period been like?
Well, everybody's aware, there was an unfortunate event with the torrential rain, which mostly affected the Western District. We have seen a steady influx of persons who would have drove through water and who property, when I talk about property, I talk about home and vehicle, were actually parked in the Western District that sustained major damages due to the flooding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So some significant numbers, I take it.
Yeah, the numbers are climbing every day. We're getting more and more reports. And I guess persons aren't as mechanically clean of the damages, but when they go to drive their vehicles, they realize that there's warning lights or some other mechanical defect they're experiencing. And so it's a little late reporting, which poses an additional concern to us, because if we had been notified immediately, we probably could have mitigated and rectified a problem in a timely manner.
Yeah. All right, so before we get to all of that, I mean, I'm surprised when I see people try to get through these streets. I know we were talking about earlier in the week, and people were talking about an education campaign. Do we really need that for people to know that don't try to navigate flooded waters, especially in the dark?
Yeah, I don't think there's any education. It's just common sense.
Right.
You see standing water, 3 cars ahead of you stalled. Why would you attempt to go and follow suit?
I don't understand it.
So common sense should prevail.
We feel it'll never be us, eh?
Oh, okay. but your car is smaller than the ones that barely made it through.
Yes.
My goodness. Okay. All right. So common sense. Don't do it, folks. All right. So let's take it from. We've got 2 different sides here. The person.
Okay. I mean, I feel like common sense is only common because at some point people is, they're reiterating it. We can't take for granted the fact that a lot of people who are driving inside these small vehicles, isn't like our grandparents were driving cars, and some of our parents didn't drive cars. So, some of these people, they have no experience with cars other than the parcel that they purchased.
Stephen,
I'm telling
please.
You.
No.
It's it's not. Yeah, I'm just saying, things that we take for granted sometimes need to be reiterated. It's the same way where everybody knows the word fender, but ask the average person where a fender is located on their car. Most people don't know what a fender actually is. So I'm saying, sometimes you have to just state things that seem obvious to you.
Okay. So I'm gonna do it right now. Public service announcement for our listeners, folks. Your car is not a boat. Do not try to drive through a flooded street, especially if you see the car in front of you is not moving. Okay. So let's talk about it for the person who has a car that flooded out, that got stalled in somewhere on Friday or Saturday. What should they be doing with you, insurance, and to that vehicle right now?
I would say primarily they should actually see either their dealership, if it's a dealership vehicle, or their preferred mechanic first. Barring that, if they would have actually purchased or thinking of purchasing a vehicle that suddenly has a really attractive price tag, suddenly that vehicle is now reduced by 50% of what you would have seen the week before. It's probably best to have them come into our inspection center and have our trained team of engineers actually conduct an inspection on it, just to confirm whether or not it is roadworthy and not compromised by the flooding.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the things that you will notice besides the damp carpet and the wet car smell that will give you an indication the car's been through a flood?
Okay. There's oxidation on wiring, excessive rusting, and you have to look at key areas. You look in the trunk areas, you look under the seats. You'll have extensive rusting under the seats and under the dashboard, and fuse panels that are low. You'll see grain oxidized particles on the fuse or wire harness, which would be telltale sign that the vehicle had, in some instance, sustained some water damages.
Mm-hmm. Do you do this type of inspection for every vehicle, especially used vehicles?
Well, we do an inspection for vehicles that are presented for comprehensive insurance. Anybody it's a free service, as long as you're applying for comprehensive insurance with Bahamas First or any of our respective agents, we conduct a free inspection on the vehicle for you.
Mm-hmm. All right. So if you do manage to get this car to drive, what are some of the long-term effects of flood damage?
Well, given the advancement in technology, it could be anywhere from shutting off radios, blasting in the middle of the night, horns going on, to critical issues as most people may not be aware, but new technology vehicles, you are fly-by-wire. You don't have the traditional gas pedal with cables anymore. You have electric throttle and you have electric brakes. So you could have malfunction in your braking system, your steering system, or your acceleration, along with other drivability issues. So it could get catastrophic depending on the severity of the flooding.
Mm-hmm. All right, so if the car has been in a flood, is there a way, is it likely that it can be repaired to the point where it would be fine, drivable? Or
Yes.
is that it?
Yes. Vehicles that sustained damages from being parked and water intrusion. Sometimes it's minimal, it's just damp carpets, maybe one or two components that can be replaced or refurbished. But for the most part, you can, if caught in time with fresh water, you can mitigate and reinstate these vehicles to pre-loss condition.
Mm-hmm. Now, I noticed you said parked. So if you were trying to drive it through a flooded street, that's a different story.
Yeah. If you try to drive a vehicle through standing water, you would have a situation which we identify as hydrolock. That's where water is consumed into the engine, and because liquids cannot be compressed, it would lock the engine and cause catastrophic engine damage to the vehicle. And we have a lot of other vehicles similar to, the Mercedes, which have electronic components that are placed strategically under the seats at the lowest point of the car, and any water intrusion sometimes pose problems to those sensitive electronic devices.
And as you said, fresh water as well. Some people, I do notice in some parts of the island, park in areas where there's water, and it could be salt water. But I mean, I don't understand it. What happens if it's salt water versus fresh water?
Well, salt water obviously will accelerate the corrosion and electrolysis, which will basically manifest throughout the wiring system of the vehicle. Fresh water, if caught in time, you can take mitigation actions to try and dry it out quickly and use your corrosion inhibitors to prevent further spread. So you have a better chance of recovering a vehicle with fresh water as opposed to salt water.
Yeah. And are there experts here for this type of damage, or can any mechanic basically handle this?
Well, there are dealerships that we partner with, and also independent shops that we partner with that are quite familiar with it and have the tools and capability to do the water remediation and any corrosion prohibitants to try and bring that car back to pre-loss condition.
What do you say to a client who has been in this situation and wants to sell the vehicle? I mean, do you advise against it? What do you tell them?
Well, I think full disclosure is required. If you're trying to sell a vehicle or you want to sell a vehicle, disclose to the buyer that the vehicle had sustained severe flooding. Give any evidence, whether it's photographic, whatever mechanical report you may have had from your mechanic, any estimates. Give full disclosure to the buyer and let the buyer make that decision whether they want to take on that risk or not.
And there's no penalty. There's no legal penalty for someone who tries to sell a lemon, or is there?
I really can't answer that. I'm sure it's up to the buyer to make the necessary assessments before they purchase a vehicle.
Yep. And when you look at most of these invoices or bills of sale, they say right on it, sold as is, where is.
Right.
So it's really on you as the purchaser to ensure that you're aware of what it is that you're purchasing.
All right.
There's no I was gonna say law or like mandate, like a person has to when they're selling a vehicle to say, okay, this is so like how in the States they have like Carfaxes and stuff attached to the car. It's like we have no similar system locally for vehicles that are being sold from one local vendor to one local person to another.
No, not that I'm aware of, but I tell you what, that's a good business opportunity for you to think about.
Right.
We are notoriously bad with storing and mining data here. So, it's some things that we need to work on so that we have that information available, but there's no central repository at this point that will allow you to query it in order to find all that information.
Well, okay. So lemon laws and Carfax type system. Those are some things we need to be thinking about, Bahamians. All right. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to talk to you. We're going to get some questions in from our listeners, and we want to talk to you about the high prices that we're seeing for everything from parts to repairs and buying a car in general, and the impact that's having. We're going to get into that after the break. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9.
A wailing, non-stop joking, a wailing. Carnival is hiring, no firing.
Need your savings class, because you know everything.
No, I just choose wisely. Like, I just got 2 months free home internet from BTC. All I did was sign up for internet.
2 months internet free? For real?
I bundled my internet and mobile services, and now I'm paying half of what the other guys charge. Plus, as a new customer, I get 2 months internet free.
What? Nah, that's a big deal.
Switch to BTC Internet and get the second and third months free for new customers. Conditions apply.
You're always on the go. We know life can be a daily rush. CIBC, First Caribbean, you can count on us. We make life easier. Manage your accounts at any time. Apply for a loan. It's easy when you bank online. We make life easier with choices that suit you. CIBC, First Caribbean.
Earning zero interest on your savings at the bank? With as little as $100, you can start earning interest on your money while you're sleeping, eating, or standing in line at the bank with the CFAL Savings Express Plan. Ready to invest? Start by putting $1,000 into our mutual funds and earn interest there too. Because at CFAL, your interest is our interest. Visit CFAL.com to start now. CFAL, growing wealth for future generations of Bahamians.
Scan on Bahamas, it's your boy Sawyer Boy. COVID is clearly unpredictable. It doesn't matter how young you are, how old you are. I'm young, and it still put a beating on me. I had no other option but to go to the hospital. I remember the doctor telling me if I had waited one more day, I wasn't gonna come inside here alive. You don't wanna be in the same position that I was in. Vaccines may not stop you from getting COVID, but it can stop you from getting COVID the way I had COVID. You don't want that way.
Imagine driving your dream car, doing all the things you never thought you could, like perfecting your parallel parking skills or picking up your date. Everyone loves to dream. Stop dreaming. Start driving with a brand new offer from Scotiabank. With an auto loan from Scotiabank, benefit from no payments for up to 2 months, a low interest rate up to 9 years to repay, and free insurance for the first year up to 2.5% of the loan amount. Promotion ends June 30th, 2022. Stop dreaming and start driving today with an auto loan from Scotiabank.
Screws and Fasteners World, Balfour Avenue and Palm Beach Street, has those hard-to-find fasteners for you right now. You can find stainless steel regular hex, carriage bolts, galvanized bolts, threaded rods, nails, self-tap screws, sex bolts, anchor bolts, turnbuckles, masonry tools, hand tools, and weed whacker strings. Check out the rope selection and carved body fasteners too. Special orders are welcome. It's your #1 fastener store. Screws and Fasteners World, Balfour Avenue and Palm Beach Streets. Call 326-1976.
If you love to dance, put your hands up now. If you love to wine, put your hands up. Whoa, there's something in the music. I feel it in the music, yeah. Whoa, there's something in the music. That sweet, sexy music. Oh, when the rhythm starts to hit me down in my soul, I start to lose control, 'cause I'm in love with Bahamian music. And when the rhythm starts to get held down in my back, my body starts to react. It's like I'm under attack when I'm at the farmers, 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 carnivals, farmers, 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 carnivals, farmers, 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 carnivals, farmers.
We're back here with Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan along with Stephen Hanna. We are talking with Kevin Hudson, Travis Donald, and Cedric Smith with Bahamas First and First Response about avoiding purchasing a car that was flooded out over the weekend, and what you need to know if you are in the market and if you are the victim of flood damage from the torrential downpours we saw over the past few days. And if you have any questions, give us a call, 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us 422-4796. Getting an interesting question here. We see it, especially in the U.S., often lots of catastrophic floods and vehicles end up here. We talked about Carfax, but how do we ensure that that you aren't getting a flood damaged vehicle from somewhere else where there also is not a Carfax type system?
Well, to be honest with you, there are very limited to no regulations to prevent that. Unless the vehicle has a branded title of junk or destruction, the vehicle can be imported. So personal homework will have to be taken, or if you have a vendor that will be willing to provide you with historical data on the vehicle, that may be your only recourse. But the government itself doesn't have any restrictions in place to prevent vehicles being imported.
Yeah. If you leave the car yourself and you don't get a mechanic and you just let it sit there and dry out, could there be any mechanical dangers? Anything that could happen while you're driving that could cause a problem?
Yes, depending on the severity of the flooding. If it's just surface level flooding where the carpets were damp, there shouldn't be any issue. But if you have water intrusion to the wiring or any electronic components, that could cause a bigger issue because water and electricity doesn't agree. And even though it's low voltage, it causes electrolysis, which will basically magnify, and that damage will just make its way straight into the modules or the brain of the computer and cause shortages, which will definitely cause some catastrophic failure.
My goodness. Wow.
So the key is early detection and interaction and mitigation, trying to get rid of the water, drying out the components. And in most instances with minor flooding or minor water intrusion, you can save the vehicle.
All right, so this is all happening as we see your president and CEO warning that there could be double-digit auto repair bill increases. What's accounting for that? And this is just so much pressure on the consumer right now with everything going up. But what's happening there in that sector?
All right, it's just basically inflation. It started with the pandemic and the supply chain disruption. Then we had the microchip shortage, and then a whole slew of issues globally from geopolitical conflicts as we see now with the Russia-Ukraine situation, raising fuel prices, a whole group of items that came at the perfect time to cause this issue. And yes, we have seen some severe impact as well with prices, as well as the availability of parts and vehicles, new and used, globally.
Yeah. And everybody we ask says that there's no end in sight. Is that what you're seeing as well, or not seeing?
Yeah, for right now, we don't see any breaks or any reduction in the cost in the near future.
All right, so there's one positive about inflation. Is that right? In terms of value, car values? Let's talk about that. Tell us about this.
Yeah. So because of the lower supply of vehicles, new vehicles as well as used vehicles, of course, everything is demand and supply. So we're finding that the market value of some of these used vehicles are increasing. Just like I said, simple demand and supply. So at Bahamas First, what we do is, as Travis said earlier, before we insure any vehicle for either comprehensive or what we call total loss, so that if your vehicle is destroyed, we pay for that as well. We inspect it and we assess it, put a value on it. Most policies will tell you that if your vehicle is destroyed, then they'll pay the reasonable market value of the vehicle at the time of the loss. But what we do is we actually also add a caveat that we will pay up to the sum insured on your schedule or on your policy document, which is set by our engineering department. So we take a more specific approach to a targeted approach to insuring these vehicles. We have our engineers inspect them and tell you the actual value of your vehicle. And what we're seeing is that over the last year or so, that on average has started to increase. So if you do have a vehicle that's insured with Bahamas First, we'd like to encourage you to present your vehicle. You know, give us a call your agent. We can also arrange a virtual inspection of it so that we could revalue it. And we prefer to take that approach because the last thing you want to happen at the end of the day, if you had a claim and your vehicle is destroyed, is to now be having to have a discussion about the actual value. You know, you expect to get paid one amount and you may or may not be paid that depending on what the market is saying at that time. So if we can get that out of the way and reassess your value of your vehicle, then we can make that adjustment and kind of soften the impact if something unfortunate does happen.
But does that affect my premiums? Will they go up as well as a result of that?
Yeah, but I mean, it'll go up, but it's not going to go up significantly. So if you're talking about, let's say on average, and then, you know, just broad figures. So let's say your vehicle has not depreciated the way it normally would, and the value increased by say $5,000. You may pay additional $100, something like that, and that's not, you know, significantly more compared to what your loss would be in your pocket if you don't make that adjustment. And again, it's entirely up to you, so you don't have to make the change. We would prefer that you do so that you don't have that discomfort at the end of the day. But at least you're aware, and that's what we're about. We want you to be aware. We don't want for there to be an accident or for there to be a loss today, and you just, like we spoke about a few minutes ago, education is key.
Yeah.
So if we can let you know what is happening in the market, then you can make an informed decision. And you know, if you decide that I cannot afford to increase my insurance at this point in time, that's fine, but you at least know what to expect in the event that a loss occurs.
Yeah. You gave an example, but I mean, how much can you, on average, are the values going up? What are we seeing?
Well, that'll be dependent on the market condition at the time. And when we do an assessment, it's not just on the inflation cost. We also look at the vehicle in its entirety. So, for example, your vehicle could be parked, hardly used, low mileage, but it's rusting because you live near the water, or you had pre-existing damages to the vehicle that we weren't aware of, faded paint, torn seats. All of these affect the value. So we can't put a number on it, but the vehicle, once assessed, we use all market factors and the condition of the vehicle to determine a fair value for the vehicle.
Mm-hmm. And are any specific types of vehicles showing more of a value now, or increased value, maybe SUVs over sedans or vice versa, or anything like that? Or what do we see?
Yeah, SUVs and trucks are high demand vehicle, and you would see spikes in those because the demand is greater for those vehicles. But in general, most vehicles right now, we're seeing an increase in the value because of the shortage globally for both used and new vehicles.
Wow, wonderful. All right, you said it. This is for your customers. So if you're not with Bahamas First, are you able to come in for an inspection, or is that not what you do?
No, it's preferred that we target our clients. We do, on request, in some instances, provide independent inspection, but we would encourage persons, and that'll be at a cost, obviously.
Okay.
To contact us in advance, give us the particular, and we'll be able to determine if that's something we're able to provide for them.
Okay. We're getting a text here. Someone's asking, if you are ordering a car from Japan, what should you look for? What should you ask the dealers for to make sure the vehicle has no flood damage or has not been in a wreck? What do you need to know?
Well, the Japan vehicles are actually all exported with export certificates, which will basically outline the state of that vehicle. But it's interesting that you mentioned Japan because, of course, we've seen a spike in the values of those vehicles because, of course, the inherent freight charges that are attached to those vehicles have all gone up in recent times. So what you may have been able to land for, say, a nominal figure of, say, $3,000 is now probably almost double that now.
Wow. Oh, boy. All right, that's quite a jump. This texter is asking about antique vehicles and I guess what constitutes an antique, and if there's special coverage that's needed for an antique vehicle.
Yes, there's coverages, and we do consider that based on an inspection of an antique vehicle. And antique vehicles, we look at the age, we look at the, I guess, original parts, paint, on the vehicle, the condition of the vehicle, and the rarity of the vehicle. A Nissan Sentra, I mean, unless it's a 1950, they had thousands of those vehicles manufactured. We won't consider that an antique. But if you have a vehicle that's rare and a limited amount of vehicles produced in a given year, that would fit the criteria as an antique.
Mm-hmm. All right, hurricane season just weeks away. What should motorists be doing? Car owners, vehicle owners, what should they be keeping in mind at this time?
Just like Kevin alluded to, if your vehicle is insured comprehensively, take a look at your policy just to ensure that it's up to date. That's first and foremost. Make sure that your policy is active and paid up. Then if you feel that your vehicle value isn't where it should be or where you think it is, you could bring it into us, have us take a look at it, and we can reassess the value. Other than that, you just have to be prepared. Mm-hmm. There's nothing much we can do. We are a predominantly flat country, and there will be standing water in certain areas, and be cautious. If you see standing water, if there's an alternative route, take it. Don't try and make it through.
And I'll tell you, this last weekend has probably been a good dry run. Those of us who have seen what has happened last weekend can kind of take note and make a mental note of the areas to try to avoid.
Yes.
We've seen certain areas that are notorious for having the flood on the airport road and around that area. So, try to now map your routes and when you know a storm is approaching, if you know you're in one of those areas where you may be now limited as far as movement and mobility, make sure that you have your supplies together so that if you can get out and get those things once the rain starts, you're at least comfortable in your home and safe.
Yep. And if you do need to make a claim, outline that process for us and how long that normally takes before you can get the matter resolved.
There's several ways you can make a claim with Bahamas First. You could come into our offices. You can reach us online at the Bahamas First website. We have a new portal, the First Online, where you can give a notification. And we also have the First Response, where you can call us and somebody will be able to either attend or assist virtually. And once that report and all the requisite documents are in, we'll do an assessment. We have trained engineers on staff who can come out and do an assessment. Sometimes we also refer to our partners, business partners, which will be the dealership or independent garages, for a more detailed assessment due to some constraints we may have at the time. And once we get all those reports in, we try our best to turn around the claim within the quickest possible time.
Mm-hmm. And you're doing a lot more online as well. Tell us about that.
Yep. So we have our first online service that allows you to, as we spoke previously, purchase the insurance online, but you can also make your submission of a first notice of loss. So we also look to that portal to receive notifications of claims so that they can then matriculate to the claims department and we will contact you back, collect all the necessary data and then start the process from there. So, as Travis said, there are several ways for you to contact us and to inform us. You could also make a report through your agent who will also send that on to us. So there, firstonline.com is a wonderful tool and it allows you, like I said, to interact directly with our claims department to provide that information and to find out what the next steps are.
All right. Just a couple more questions from our texters before we wrap things up here. Somebody says, are there incentives for green vehicles like electrics or hybrid models? I don't know if incentives is the right word, but do you get maybe discounts? Do you all, what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, at this stage, I'd say no. One of the things that we're doing is building our database so that we could collect data and see what impact it is. I mean, as with anything in our business, the claims experience is what really drives costs. So yes, we are a company that takes renewable energy, global warming, because we see the effects a lot more displayed a lot in a more real way than some other industries. So we're looking at that. But one of the challenges that we have is that some of these vehicles, particularly the ones that are imported, the repair costs are high because they have to be exported to be repaired. There's not necessarily for all of the green vehicles, all of the electric vehicles, local facilities available. So, on the one hand, yes, we would like to get to the point where we can offer discounts for that. And we think we're going to get there because our corporate culture committee is high on making sure that we take these things seriously. But again, sometimes it's a little bit cost prohibitive when we think about what can happen to them and what the cost to actually repair those vehicles are at this stage of the game.
Okay. All right. So I guess one more warning to folks out there about driving through flooded streets.
The thing is that, the insurance is one side of it. The inconvenience, though, to me, is what you should really be thinking of. Because for the 5 or 10, 15 minutes that you think you're going to save by trying to navigate those streets, if something does go wrong with your vehicle, then you're now inconvenienced for days, weeks, maybe, as you try to get it repaired, replaced. So, sometimes it's in your best interest to just sit down, relax, be a little bit late as opposed to being a lot late.
Yeah. Well said. Thank you all very much. Kevin Hudson, Travis Donald, Cedric Smith with Bahamas First. We appreciate it. Great advice this morning. Thank you again. And the rainy season is here, folks, so keep this in mind. We've got 6 more months of potentially this, in addition to the hurricane season. So make some wise choices and inspect these vehicles before you buy anything that seems too good to be true. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, Morning Blend Business, and we're going to be listening to highlights from the event last night, the Org Bahamas Economic and Fiscal Sustainability Webinar. It's coming up after news headlines. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio.
If you love to dance, put your hands up night.
Around the world, Cleveland Clinic is recognized as a leader in healthcare. Our team of experts relentlessly pursues the best for our patients. From groundbreaking cancer research to state-of-the-art heart surgery, life-saving innovations happen here every day. When it's time to travel for your health, it's time to travel to Cleveland Clinic. Your destination for care, for every care in the world. To learn more, visit clevelandclinic.org/Caribbean.
Breakfast just got better at Wendy's. Introducing the Breakfast Biggie Bag. Enjoy a double sausage muffin with 2 square sausage patties, a freshly cracked egg, and cheese served on a toasted English muffin, a medium waffle fries, and an orange juice for only $5.25, VAT inclusive. Add an apple pie for just $1 more.
Say what?
At Wendy's, better breakfast is all day. Offers valid in participating locations. Wendy's, different inside and out.
Doctors Hospital's Pharmacy introduces a new spin on prescriptions called Pick Up Now, Pay Later. That's right, you can collect your medications first and pay after. How does it work? Step 1, submit a prescription online. Step 2, select the pickup site. Step 3, collect your medication. And Step 4, pay online within 14 days. For more info, call us at 242-302-4785 or visit us at doctorshosp.com.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
The views and opinions of the host and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Blend Business on this Friday, May 20th, 2022. Welcome back to our Morning Blend listeners. Once again, I'm Dwight Strachan. Stephen had to leave us. This morning, though, we are going to get some highlights from last night's Economic Roundtable organized by the Organization for Responsible Governance. And some heavy hitters part of that roundtable yesterday, including Minister for Economic Affairs, Michael Halkitis, CEO of Fidelity Group, Gowan Bowe, and a Caribbean economist and advisor, Marla Ducaron. Guardian Radio's very own Hubert Edwards, and Org Economic Development Committee Chair Hubert Edwards moderating that event last night. So we're going to play a portion of it if you missed it last night or if you want to hear it again. And we thank Org for allowing us to do this. And you were able to hear it live on Guardian Radio on Hubert Edwards' show, The Essentials, last night. But we're going to pick it up at a point where the Minister for Economic Affairs was asked about the budget and what we can expect in the presentation and during this budget debate that's coming up. The presentation is going to be made on Wednesday. So we're going to pick up from that point, from this roundtable that went on for about 2 hours last night. And then we will, if we have time, talk about it. Take a listen.
There's a question here for you, Minister. There are questions about the government's ability to raise revenue as reported in the fiscal strategy report. Can you inform how the government intends to raise revenue in the upcoming budget? So we'll take that question from you, and then we will then go back over to Ava, who I think have a couple of other questions. So how does the government propose to raise revenue in this cycle?
First of all, the economy is growing. We're forecast to grow by 8% in 2022, and I think just over 4% in 2023. So we'll get part of the budget year would be, we go from 1st of July to 30th of June, so half in 2022, half in 2023. We will be in a growth, and we expect to be in a growth environment. So by virtue of the economy growing, our revenues will grow. That's one element of it. It's very, very important that we have and we continue to fully staff up and equip what we call the Revenue Enhancement Unit. And that goes to what we call revenue administration and doing a better job of collecting what is due, not hounding the ordinary man on the street and shaking him down and making sure that those big taxpayers, those who can afford to pay, are adequately assessed and the taxes are collected. And even in cases where there needs to be, being able to have people who can, assist businesses in terms of payment plans, et cetera. So improving the revenue administration by having people in place whose job it is to make sure that the government's taxes are collected. And the third element of it, which is we might not see it in this cycle, but we're working very hard on the whole issue of carbon credits and being able to monetize them and to begin to see a revenue stream from them, hopefully within 18 months to 2 years. That is the timetable. But you will see the revenue generated by buoyancy because of the growth in the economy and because of what we're seeing in terms of what we have done in terms of revenue enhancement. In terms of, and when we talk about the economy growing, as the economy grows, more people are employed, they receive a paycheck, they spend money in the economy, money begins to circulate, they do things like build homes or, consume services, and then some of that comes back to the government. So that is how we anticipated. We have a goal that we will get to 25% of revenue to GDP by 2024-25. And so we expect as we continue to strengthen, we'll achieve that goal.
Okay, before Ava goes, I have a one-word answer. I have a question. I only need a one-word answer from you. Is this current budget going to create the trajectory to get us to that 25%? Yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. Ava Turnquest, over to you.
Okay, this question is for Minister Halkitis. What can we expect in terms of relief for Bahamians in this upcoming budget? Given the rising inflationary pressures, the one being gas, another being on groceries. Without, I guess, without giving us the whole haul, just give us a bit of what can we expect in terms of relief.
I would say this. I'd answer it like
Types
this.
of relief.
And we know. I'll answer it like this. We recognize the tremendous pressure being put on individuals, on householders, on businesses, because of what's going on with inflation. We're not unsympathetic to it, as I've been accused of being, but there will be relief. But I would say, and as you said, and so I would just have to ask you to stay tuned, because as Gowan had said in his presentation, our budget, I don't want to use, it's a bit of theater in that there's a lot of anticipation and there's a run-up and there's an unveiling. But I would say that we've been studying a lot of options, and so you will see some relief in this budget. And so please, I can't say more because that's the Prime Minister's prerogative on this coming Wednesday the 25th, next week, less than a week.
But let me say something that I think is important, because we get into this element that I think is incorrect of government being a provider as opposed to a facilitator. And the question that persons raise, or the statements persons make, is what is government going to give to individuals to provide relief, as opposed to the initiatives that government is going to encourage in order to either bolster their income earning capacity or bring greater efficiency into the economy in terms of being able to withstand it. I think it's important that we don't shirk our responsibility as individuals to say that there was a reason that our forefathers or our older grandparents, great-grandparents, and even some parents taught us about preparing for a rainy day. And Bahamians too often live a capitalistic lifestyle, wanting a social safety net, meaning that in times of buoyancy, that we ball it out. And then in times of difficulty, we said, what is the government going to do for us? We have to start instilling in our people that you have some responsibility in this, that you are adjusting your lifestyle in order to do so. So I don't take away, and the government has its initiatives and what it desires to do for the population. What I will say is this, that I think it's important that a program that was initiated several years ago that never got to fruition is important, and that's the RISE program, which was effectively a program that looked at, I'm going to say, a dignified manner of redistribution of taxes. Our system as it currently stands has a significantly unfair burden upon those who are least among us. And so we have to be mindful that we don't adjust the system trying to accommodate those who have least among us. We maximize the efficiency of the system to redirect any surpluses to those who need the support, whilst not giving breaks or concessions to those who are not in need of the support, but will invariably benefit from it if we take very broad brush approaches to relief. And so I think it is one of those aspects that, as ministers say, stay tuned. Well, I will stay tuned, because I will say that, as they know, me being one of, the harshest critics is, I don't need my government to be a provider. I need my government to be a facilitator. And from that perspective, I wanted to say that, what am I responsible for? And if they show me my responsibility and show that they are equally responsible, then I understand that I have a role to play in it as well.
Important. So there's a question here from Dale Knowles. Good day all. Considering a lower tax rate on a 2x increase in revenue has a favorable net impact than a multi-point increased tax rate across the board. I think basically saying that if you reduce the rate, you could have more favorable or at least revenue positive outcome. So referencing this new budget, Mr. Minister, will it include an attitude of abundance empowered by the focus on innovation for new revenue and not just management of costs? I know you can tell us everything, but what is the attitude here?
Yeah, you cannot get by strictly on management of costs, because frankly, what happened within our framework, upwards, maybe 80% of the budget is fixed with salaries, debt service, other fixed commitments of the government. So the government, when it comes to saving costs, it's that's not going to do it. We have to grow the economy, and I've said before, we have to leap out of that that negative 0.1%, 0.5%. That cycle we've been in for so many years. We have to leap out of that. And my belief is that a big part of it is that we have to move to the point where we are, for example, in terms of infrastructural development, where we can target that development more so that it creates economic activity. It won't create a return in terms of generating revenue directly to the government, but we have to be able to be in a position to say, okay, this is the ideal place to put a new airport, or this place needs to be prioritized in terms of improving the docking facility, for example, because that would spur some activity, and that would generate growth, and eventually something comes back into the government coffers. So perhaps even more creatively deploying your capital budget. But we have to move that. Unfortunately, traditionally, and we're all being very frank on this webinar, some things have happened because, constituencies need to be developed, and where there's pressure, it goes there. And of course, Bahamians, they need the infrastructure, but I think eventually what we need to do is move more towards, yes, we recognize that every citizen is equal and deserves, services on an equal level, but let's start prioritizing and putting to the front of the line projects that can spur activity, so that if you put in this airport, then that will bring things alive. And so you have to. That's a long answer to say you can't strictly depend on trying to pinch the pennies, because what's going to happen is if you try to pinch it, if you get a hurricane, you have to spend the money. If you have some other event, what the economists call it, some externality, something happens outside of your control, you have to spend the money. And so so you have to constantly be pursuing ways to grow the economy, expand the economy. For example, we have to promote, development in the Family Islands. I believe there's an attitude shift for people who now, let's say people who visit, they want to go to a smaller place. Perhaps not everybody wants to go to the mega resort. They want to have a different experience. And so we have to find ways to incentivize people to get into that part of the industry. And by spreading it out, we actually strengthen our economy. So long story short, controlling the expense won't do it alone. You have to always be pursuing growth in your economy.
I think that is important, because the growth, as going back to what Gowan said, when you create the growth, when you create the surplus and the excess, then you're better able to supplement the social systems, and that is important. Gowan, I want to come back to you, and I think within the context of the Bahamas' current financial challenges, the debt situation is our Achilles heel. And you made a point earlier that the budget doesn't belong to the government, it belongs to the people. Within the context of a 53 to 47% debt mix, external to domestic being the larger portion, is there a role for business houses, for banks, for local entities who have the wherewithal to start to step back and say, do we have a role here in helping the government to release some pressure, to pull some trigger, so that we can have a reorientation of the balance of the portfolio, and therefore give the government greater room? I.e., we have seen in the past where there seems to be a reluctance of persons taking up more of the domestic debt. Is there a role for the business sector in this process, which ultimately helps the country and then helps the business sector? Talk to us about it.
There's a mouthful in it, and I think there certainly is a role for the private sector in it. But I think there's some very fundamental elements that we have to appreciate. That actually, up until this point, government debt was, by and large, the largest consumer of capital in the country, right? There simply was not alternative investments in which to put money into. And so we often turn to the private sector and say, well, why is it that there's a dialing back? Well, there's a prudence and fiscal responsibility even on businesses, that if your pension plans, if your surplus reserves and treasury management has already invested in a significant amount of government debt security, then expanding it is actually saying you have to breach what is, advisable to you in diversity, and diversifying a portfolio in order to become significantly overweighted. Now, with that being said, there is a tremendous amount of excess liquidity in our system, and we need to work with government in terms to build the confidence with it so that persons who have not yet invested that level into their portfolios and put it into securities, start to do more of that with it. Now, what do I mean by that? There are some very wealthy traditional persons who remember the time when bank deposits used to pay 8%, 7%, and they are still fixated on term deposit and savings accounts being the savings mechanism for building wealth. When in reality, there's a greater opportunity for them now to actually have a diversified portfolio and say, well, you can take 20% of that, 25% of that, and start to put into government securities, which will actually give you a better return that are sitting on bank deposits. It is with not an extended risk, because I'm going to come back to that one, meaning people see it that the bank is safer than the government, right? And that perception, whether it's reality or not, is a significant driving force. And we need to change that mindset to say that government is effectively to be seen traditionally as the risk-free or the lowest risk within an economy. And there's a very simple reason. Government has the ability to tax everyone else in order to meet its obligations. So if it runs into a very severe circumstance, government has an ability that is actually unique to it in an economy, meaning that it is a monopoly and it has an ability to take and extract more. So I think it goes down to how does the private sector collectively with government say that those that may have already have a significant weighting, what is the confidence as to why you have that weighting and are not necessarily reducing it? How do you then encourage others to create a similar weighting? But I will say this, and this is important, that the fear, or there should not be fear of foreign currency debt as long as we have a balance of payment strategy and foreign currency strategy that says that when we borrow in foreign currency, we have to be creating industry that generates foreign currency revenues in order to build the capacity to repay it. And put in very simple terms, if I borrow $1 million in US, and the US market is much larger, I have to be able to demonstrate that I can earn $1 million plus in US in order to repay it. So it is not as simple. Now, the government, in reality, when the government looks at it and says, on the face of it, we may say, well, all government revenues is earned in Bahamian dollars, but the reality is that's not true. The government actually earns visitor taxes. The government earns port fees. The government earns fees from its airspace and others. Those are in foreign currency. And so we need to do a better job of government in terms of saying, when we look at our 2 billion, hopefully, and 2.2 billion in revenue, that how much of that is foreign currency, meaning US dollars, that will allow us to start to repay it. So I know it's a difficult one to, I'm going to say, answer in its fullness in this time, but the answer is that there has to be a collaborative effort to say, how do we build confidence? Meaning all stakeholders have to work, meaning government can't do things that people see as stupid in terms of the money that they're using. those who have investment in government have to say why their analysis says there is confidence, and those who do not have investment in government are open to listening to say that I am not simply avoiding it because I have paranoia versus what I'm going to call educated investment strategy.
Okay, and I think that's useful.
Let me chime in right there, please, if I may, Mr. Edwards.
I'm going to give you a chance to chime in on this, Minister, but as you chime in, just taking from what Gowan said, and piggybacking on the question we had before about speaking with the international investors and the international market, isn't this indicative of some level of need on the part of the government to have a better conversation with the domestic players?
Well, absolutely, and we have had that conversation. We had one earlier this year, and at that when we wrapped that up, we agreed to have one immediately following the presentation of the budget, so that they can have access to more information, and we can have a more sort of fulfilling discussion. But the point is well taken. So we're doing that conversation with the banks, local banks, and the investing community, banks and investing community together. And as Gowan said, there are individuals who have significant assets. As a matter of fact, we are engaging them just this week, as a matter of fact, and we are exploring some opportunities whereby we can be able to have the individual who doesn't have the 8 figures or those figures, but who has a few $1,000s maybe, and they're getting zero, in the bank. We're working right now. I can say we're working with the central bank to come up with a position where they can be able to invest in something and get more than zero. So the point is very well taken. Everything Gowan says is well. I take the view that we have to build that confidence, and we build it with the international community by talking to them, and we have to as well build it with our local community. Yeah,
definitely.
And the final point is the point that Gowan made about the being able to match your foreign exchange earnings and to be able to justify foreign exchange borrowing. We are building out our debt management unit here at the Ministry of Finance. And so that as we build capacity, we'll be able to do more of that, have individuals who can do more of that analysis and more of that matching. So that's something we have on the horizon.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, we are playing back for you part of the Economic and Fiscal Sustainability webinar that Organization for Responsible Governance hosted last night, and we're going to pick it up after the break. If you do have questions about what you're hearing so far, concerns, you can call in. We'll take some calls before we get back into it after the break. So calls when we get back, 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us, 422-4796. And as you're hearing there, that's Economic Affairs Minister Michael Alkaitis and Gowan Bo, CEO of Fidelity Group. They're speaking with Hubert Edwards. We'll pick this up, as we said, after the break. This is Morning Blend Business on a Friday morning here on Guardian Radio, 96.9.
Boy, why you look so mashed up like clothes at the washer?
No, boy, just a hard day, boy.
Hard day? What happened? The breakfast lady ran out of tuna and Gretzi.
We need to start joking about everything, This serious, boy. This real serious, boy.
Boy, what's serious? Tell me.
All right, well, today, boss gave us, boy, one big contract. And nobody else get a chance and nobody say nothing.
Boy, you know that ain't right. You know government contracts ain't supposed to go that way.
Yeah, but nobody's saying nothing. Boss man just tell people to sign the papers. Then he send me to meet his boy downtown and collect this envelope.
You need to tell somebody. You need to become a whistleblower.
You know I's a real man, but I never blow no whistle. I be drunk all my life and junk.
No, boy. A whistleblower is someone who tells people what they see when they see something wrong happening at work.
But I ain't no whistleblower, and I ain't no snitch. I still white there, you know.
But ain't nobody can know it's you. All you gotta do is call Crime Stoppers, or you could text them from inside the Crack Crime Bahamas app. They don't ask about you. And your call goes straight through to Miami, so nobody know you is. And if you text, your message get mixed up like Kong Salad.
Call 328-8477 from Nassau or 242-300-8477 from the Family Islands.
History has taught us that in crisis, humanity will always respond with innovation. What world-changing technologies will emerge from humanity's latest challenges? How can the Caribbean capitalize on the metaverse, blockchain, hybrid work, and more? Join us at the RF Economic Outlook Conference under the theme Future Forces, World-Changing Ideas, where we will explore the future of work, investments, technology, and more. The journey begins on June 8th. Reserve your seat today at www.rfeoc.com.
Play this record as frequently as possible.
Friday, May 20th, it's time to feel good.
It's Star 106 and Four Walls.
Feel Good Friday.
Classic.
The Star 106 Anniversary Edition.
Happening at the Four Walls Squash and Social Club Village Road.
It's the after work.
I got so early vibes.
Vintage.
Block party.
Exclusively for the grown and sexy.
With the best in throwback classics.
Happening at the new Outdoor Terrace Bar at Four Walls.
Limited tickets on sale now at the Nassau Guardian and Four Walls for $20 in advance.
Come out early to enjoy the open room bar from 5 to 6 p.m.
This is a strictly cashless party.
So bring your old school dancing moves with your new school payment options.
Feel Good Fridays. Friday, May 20th.
Imagine driving your dream car, doing all the things you never thought you could, like perfecting your parallel parking skills, or picking up your date. Everyone loves to dream. Stop dreaming. Start driving with a brand new offer from Scotiabank. With an auto loan from Scotiabank, benefit from no payments for up to 2 months, a low interest rate up to 9 years to repay, and free insurance for the first year up to 2.5% of the loan amount. Promotion ends June 30th, 2022. Stop dreaming and start driving today with an auto loan from Scotiabank.
It is time for your morning business report, brought to you by CFAL. The Access Accelerator Small Business Development Center has facilitated more than $71 million in approved funding for just under 1,000 small businesses. That's according to Interim Executive Director Samantha Roll. Roll also revealed that roughly 30% of those businesses are delinquent in repaying those government-guaranteed loans, and only about 2 or 3 businesses have defaulted. She says that they have 2 or 3 companies that they're working with, as well as working with the lending partner to see how they can turn that around for those companies. You can read more about this in today's Guardian Business section. The newly formed Digital Advisory Panel will consider listing a modified sand dollar on an international digital asset cryptocurrency exchange, according to Attorney General Ryan Pinder. That suggestion part of a list containing the advisory panel's mandate to fulfill its obligations under the Digital Asset White Paper. The mandate includes drafting further amendments to the Digital Assets and Registered Exchanges Act to provide an inclusive regime for non-fungible tokens, stable coins, and decentralized finance, as well as proposed taxes, turnover fees, or a levy framework, the creation of a risk management plan for the digital assets industry and country to contribute to keeping bad actors out, and possible data protection and intellectual property legislative reforms to support the industry. The government is looking at changing the country's building codes to deal with pressures that climate change will put on the built environment. That's according to Minister of Works and Utilities Alfred Sears. Sears was speaking at a conference held by the Ministry of Works and Utilities to talk about flood remediation. He explained that one of the legislative changes being considered right now would allow the Ministry of Works to use third-party inspectors to go into developments to ensure that all of the country's building codes are being adhered to. Sarah says a team has been assembled to look at the country's building code to see how it can be strengthened, given the new threats that the built environment faces related to climate change. He added that the government is looking at developing a comprehensive land use plan. And a private sector group of Bahamians with linkages to Cat Island is set to invest in 3 unique boutique resort properties and submit management operations plans for the Arthurtown Airport and Bennett's Harbor Dock. That's expected to be submitted by July to the government. Carlos Mackey, who represents the for-profit Orange Creek Redevelopment Partnership and the nonprofit Orange Creek Redevelopment Association, was speaking during Cat Island Business Outlook yesterday, explaining that the group of 100 financially active Bahamians with Cat Island ties plans to make the island a commercial and economic powerhouse through strategic development. You can read more about that in today's Guardian business section as well. Overseas, Russia will cut off natural gas to Finland after the Nordic country that applied for NATO membership this week refused President Vladimir Putin's demand to pay in rubles. That's according to the Finnish state-owned energy company today, the latest escalation over European energy amid the war in Ukraine. Finland is the latest country to be cut off from an energy supply that is used to generate electricity and power industry after refusing Russia's decree. Poland and Bulgaria were cut off late last month, but had prepared for the loss of gas or are getting supplies from other countries. Putin has declared that unfriendly foreign buyers opened 2 accounts in state-owned Gazprom Bank, one to pay in euros and dollars as specified in contracts and another in rubles. An Italian energy company said this week that it was starting procedures to open a euro and a ruble account. The European Commission, the European Union's executive arm, has said countries making a payment in currency listed in their contracts and formally signaling that the payment process is concluded is acceptable under EU sanctions, but it says opening a second account in rubles would breach them. Ford is asking owners of 350,000 vehicles to take them to dealers for repairs in 3 recalls, including about 39,000 that should be parked outdoors because the engines can catch fire. Ford says in U.S. government documents posted Thursday that it doesn't know what's causing the fires in some 2021 Ford Expedition and Lincoln Navigator SUVs. But the company says fires can happen even while the engines are off. Ford has reports of 16 fires under the hood, 14 in rental company vehicles. 1 person was apparently burned. It's recommending that the SUVs be parked outdoors and away from buildings. So far, it hasn't developed a repair for the fires, which appear to start at the back of the engine compartment on the passenger side. Of the 16 fires, 12 happened while the SUV engines were turned off. The company says it has no reports of fires extending to any buildings. And Twitter is stepping up its fight against misinformation with a new policy cracking down on posts that spread potentially dangerous false stories. The change is part of a broader effort to promote accurate information during times of conflict or crisis. Starting yesterday, the platform will no longer automatically recommend or emphasize posts that make misleading claims about the Russian invasion of Ukraine, including material that mischaracterizes conditions in conflict zones or makes false allegations of war crimes or atrocities against civilians. Under its new crisis information policy, Twitter will also add warning labels to debunked claims about ongoing humanitarian crises. Users won't be able to like, forward, or respond to posts that violate the new rules. In your Market Watch, recapping trading on the BISX from Thursday, your market movers: Bahamas Property Fund moving 5,000 shares, closing up 5 cents to 610. Commonwealth Brewery moving 200, closing unchanged at 752. Focall moving 5,000, up 23 cents to 398. Consolidated Water down 4 cents, closing at 240. Emira Incorporated unchanged at $12. The BISX All-Share Index closing at 2,447.36, up 11.02. That's your Market Watch. And that is your morning business report, brought to you by CFAL, growing wealth for future generations. And we're back here with Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9, Morning Blend Business. Dwight Strachan with you. We're going to pick up with the Org Economic and Fiscal Sustainability webinar in just a bit. Just want to read a couple of your messages. Someone says, kudos to Mr. Edwards for a great program. It was informative and the panel was knowledgeable. Looking forward to hearing more of this kind of lineup in the future. And yes, and definitely, and kudos to Org Bahamas for organizing it. Another text here: enforcement is a problem for tax collection. Why can't we tie collection of taxes to tie collection of taxes owing to necessary renewals like driver's license and car licensing? In other words, if your NIB contributions are not up to date, you cannot proceed with renewals. This will force many taxpayers to do the right thing when it comes to keeping up to date. And this concept should be instituted across the board, like I see with property taxes, and requiring banks to now ensure mortgagees pay on time or will be tacked on to their mortgages, etc. Okay, that's interesting. That's a very interesting text there. Let's take this call. Good morning, call. You're on the air.
Good morning, Dwight. How you doing?
Doing well.
Yeah, I don't know. Me call up. I'm called about twice, but you got some good guests on this morning. Is that Mr. Michael Harkit is on?
Yeah, we're playing the webinar that took place last night. So we're playing highlights from that.
Oh, is Mr. Edwards on?
Yeah, he moderated the webinar last night. So
okay, let me ask two questions. I don't know if he made response.
Now remember, that wasn't live. That was from last night. So we're just playing it so people can hear. But hopefully we'll have Minister Halkitis on soon, and Gowan Bo is always here with us. And so
Carbon did it.
No. All of that is from last night.
I go on.
Okay, all right. Hopefully we'll have the minister after the presentation, and he will be able to talk to us some more. All right. So okay, let's get back to it, folks. Everybody understand, right? This is from last night. Good. Okay, here we go.
Comments in there. I'll share these one quickly. I don't think there's anything wrong with a social net system. We like to think of government as in a neoliberalist way. The government can be an active agent to improve the lives of the citizens, and I assure you that there are a broad number of Bahamians that are in need of government assistance. Cases of Lula da Silva and Brazil are good cases where populations have been lifted out of poverty through government assistance programs. So that's a comment which came from one individual. Is the government considering implementing a payroll tax for middle and high income wage earners, that is earners above 52,000? Mr. Minister?
No.
Okay. The answer to that is no. Another question here for you. Will the budget address or give consideration to the impact of cooperatives, credit unions in particular, for the Family Island with the exit of commercial banks?
As you know, well, you might know, a few years ago we moved, because the cooperatives and the credit unions had gotten so large, we moved the administrative regulation of them to the central bank. More than I'm sure there's a role that the cooperatives can play in the absence of the banks, but we are looking at some other solutions in terms of agency banking and using technology. Also, the central bank will be increasing and upping their PR and their rollout of the sand dollar that had a bit of a pause because of COVID. So whatever, I'm sure we'll be looking at how, and we welcome that conversation with the cooperatives on how they can assist. But we are looking at being able to digitize, for example, the operations of the Post Office Savings Bank, which is in every island, and how we can use agency banking, where you don't have to have a physical bank, but you can have a space in another building and be able to have banking services. And so again, that comes back to digitization and being able to roll that out. But I'm sure we can have that, now that it's been raised, we'll have that conversation on how we can incorporate cooperatives and bring them into the conversation as well.
I think it's a critical question before I come to you, Gowan, because I personally have a concern for cooperatives and credit union. There seem to be a significant reduction and curtailment in the amounts which are out there operating effectively. And when we consider the impact or the relationship that cooperatives and credit union have, especially with segment of the vulnerable population, persons who need to raise capital to start a business, I think that some sort of a special attention should be placed there. Minister, so as you go through your deliberation, I think this is an area which would be useful for additional discussion.
Yeah, well, thank you, and I made a note of it. I know one of the concerns when the regulation was migrated to the central bank was would the smaller cooperatives fall through the cracks and sort of be out of sight, out of mind. But so now that the point is raised and you reinforced it, that is something we'll look at. The struggles they're having and what's causing the lack of use, etc.
Yes. To you, Gowan, I think this individual asks a question. I know the answer, but I'll leave it to you. Does this prospectus that you speak of exist? If yes, where can it be found? And if not, when can we expect that it is to be done? Now, the last part must be for the minister, but you can fill in the blanks for the rest.
So you just answered it because you're saying the last part is for the minister. So it means, the answer is it's not formulated in a manner that is useful in the international community, meaning that we see there is information about the government's financial affairs. So we have budgets, we have the level of debt stock, we have information in the central bank. So we have, I'm going to say, information pieces that are maintained by the central bank as the registrar transfer agent for BGRS, BGS, treasury bills and others. We have some information in the budget that looks at the total debt that exists for government. But in terms of the prospectus that I'm speaking about, no, I have never seen it. And it is one that I think is critical for us to formulate. I'll leave the minister to answer the question in terms of, because he answered by saying that the debt management unit is being expanded internally. And so analysis and the ability to formulate information. But I just want to address two elements that were earlier stated. And one of them is, I know the minister has what I'm going to call his collective responsibility. And so from that perspective, there are the elements that are being deliberated. I think that we have reached a point in time where when people are asking the question, will there be tax reform, that as opposed to us stating that there's not going to be new taxes, that our answer is we are going to analyze and empirically study and make the best decision for the country going forward. The reason why I say that is with VAT introduction, if people remember, it was absolutely not, it was opposition that then moved to, okay, well, let us understand what the studies and empirical analysis says, to it is not what we would like, but we think it is going to be better based on the empirical analysis that has been performed, to we accept it, but there needs to be some, not some caveats, some parameters that are agreed upon, to then eventually the private sector actually working with government to roll it out. I say that to say that persons look at taxes saying, and I'll use this term that the minister used, new taxes. If we reform a system, that means that we actually, what I'm going to say, start with a blank sheet of paper. It's not as simple as that, but meaning a blank sheet of paper and say that the new tax system that we are going to roll out may involve new taxes that will effectively replace the inefficient and ineffective tax system that we have, or components of tax, so that when the individual is thinking about tax reform, they're not seeing it solely as just hiking up my tax bill. And I say that because when we look at where our tax to GDP number is being less than 20%, and the government having stated commitment to work it to 25%, that number was not picked out of thin air. That number is a number that has been demonstrated as being useful in developed countries in terms of being able to provide services. So, so the reality is that was benchmark. But the reality is, may that mean that we have to reform the tax system such that the equity that was spoken about earlier means that there is greater ability to extract taxes from those who have the capacity to pay, and a reduction in the tax burden that has to be borne by persons. And that may very well be a income-based tax system that is able to be rolled out. But I think most important is saying we have to not dismiss tax reform as being additional tax. And I would only say with the minister, and he knows that I say this to him all the time, don't say that there's not going to be new taxes. Say that we are not going to increase the tax burden on individuals, but we may very well have a new system of taxes that comes about.
Yes, and that's good advice because, Mr. Minister, we don't believe it often. We know why you're saying it and how you're saying it, but generally speaking, for those persons who follow this thing, they anticipate that there must be changes. Let me ask you a very quick question before I go to my main question for you, Mr. Minister. The question here from Kate Adelaide. Should we be confident in the government's ability to curb the effects of volatility and scamming within the crypto industry? What would be your take on that?
Yeah, we have what we think is a very that is world-class regulation. We amended it today in the Senate, amended it yesterday in the House of Assembly. The view is amongst the regulator to continue to build their capacity to be on the cutting edge, to engage the professionals that they need to. So I suppose you'd never get to zero, but you want to demonstrate to the scammers and the other name that was used that this is a jurisdiction that has a robust regulation, and so there's no room for them. It's not the wild west, so to speak. You might always get one or two bad actors, but the idea is to be able to identify them and get rid of them quickly.
My next question, therefore, to you is, what will make the Bahamas as a country economically grow at this point in time and into the future? Right now, we see that based on all the projections from various institutions and really from our own calculation, it seems as if after we get this bounce from the grow back from the downturn, we get to 8% or 6%. There seems to be in the midterm a reversion to that 2% growth. The IMF shows that we should maybe be at about 4% in order to achieve the things that we're achieving. What is going to cause this to happen? Where do you see the growth industries in the Bahamas?
I think one of the main things that we have to tackle is the cost of electricity. Right, I think that is a significant. Well, I know it's a significant burden on business and the individuals, and so we have to accelerate that transition to less costly fuel and then to greener fuel. I think that what we have to do. I mean, you have some economists who are saying that they're looking at what's happening with the stock market and they're saying. The U.S. might be one element that pushes the U.S. into recession. I think based on our proximity and the fact that that's our main trading partner, we can still have a healthy economy in terms of visitors coming, people coming to invest. And so what we have to do is we just have to continue to beat the drums for development, bringing in foreign investment, making sure that it's easy for Bahamians to get into business. So I think the main thing we have to tackle that cost of electricity, make government services easier, remove some of the roadblocks. We're moving full speed ahead with the digitization project. Which should continue to make things easier. And I think if we do that and we can maximize, our position in terms of the tourism sector, maximize what's happening in financial services with this new development, I think we can we can, escape that low growth path. I think what is happening. I'm hopeful that being battered by Dorian and then clobbered by COVID-19 is that there's a greater sense of urgency to make the changes. One example, for example, it might be a small example, but you notice a lot of people, starting to do their backyard gardening and their small cottage industry, maybe a side business, because there's a realization that in the midst of peace and safety is sudden destruction. And Gowan was quoting songs earlier, but I'm saying there's a greater sense of urgency. So I believe that if we have initiatives that are well thought out, that we can communicate to people, that there'll be acceptance of it. And one of them is going to be this accelerated move towards cheaper fuel and renewable, and then on to renewable energy.
Definitely, I think energy is a ubiquitous one. It touches everything within the economy. But I also believe, Mr. Minister, more energy needs to be placed in this idea of using our greatest asset. And as it stands right now, the greatest thing that we have going for us is tourism. And the question is not only how we can diversify, but how we can glean, or as I like to put it, domesticate more of the revenue from tourism, which then creates a knock-on effect which benefits the country. And so while we have heard about greater linkages with agriculture and so on and so forth, I think we are at the place where we need to get a little bit more serious about domesticating those revenue.
I don't disagree. And I actually think that what we need to do, and I've been speaking to my colleagues, is we've seen some things happening. For example, we know that Disney is in South Luther. We know that the ground has been broken for the port in Freeport, in Grand Bahama. We know that there's a MOU for the sale of the Grand Lukai. And so what we need to do now is to not sit back and hope that the Bahamian citizens see these and say, oh, there's an opportunity there, but use the agencies of government to go into those places and say, look, this is what's happening. Here are some potential opportunities. And who's ever interested, here's how much the government can do in terms of either through its agencies assisting with financing, or maybe as far as encouraging the private sector to do some finance. So we have to play a more active role. And I say again that we have no choice, because we have to, we're up at 80 maybe mid 80s debt to GDP. We have a hurricane season coming up. We don't know what's happening with COVID. So when we speak about the runway, we have to recognize that, perhaps it's not so long. We have to get busy, like you say.
Yeah, we have to get busy. Yeah. We're kind of running out of time in terms of...
Sorry.
No problem. But
this has been a very, very good conversation.
All right. So as you heard, a lot of great information coming out of that, and you can go on Org Bahamas' Facebook page. You can watch the whole thing. And a good portion of this aired on The Essentials last night as well. And you can go on our podcast page on our website, GuardianTalkRadio.com, and today that will be posted there as well, so you can hear that, and just whetting your appetite for what we can expect on Wednesday when the budget is presented, and more conversations like this will be coming over the next few weeks as we see where this administration is heading. So many challenges ahead and so many objectives, but we'll see. It's going to be an interesting time. Let's do our final look at weather. And your final look at weather as we head into the weekend. We've got a steady stream of abundant tropical moisture from the Caribbean, coupled with favorable upper-level conditions. It will continue to produce a wet pattern, as well as bouts of active weather over the country. Meanwhile, a weak surface ridge across the area will intensify, generating gentle to locally fresh breezes across the country through tonight. Residents in low-lying areas being advised to Take special precautions during heavy and prolonged rainfall events. Today, we're expecting mostly cloudy, warm, and humid conditions with scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms, especially in the afternoon and in the central and southeastern islands, breezy conditions. Temperatures today getting up to around 87 Fahrenheit, 30 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight getting down about 75 Fahrenheit, 24 Celsius. And that moisture across the country will progressively decrease, though, with lingering moisture continuing to produce occasional pops of showers and thunderstorms throughout the weekend. So for tomorrow, Saturday, variably cloudy and warm with isolated showers and the chance of isolated thunderstorms. Sunday, partly cloudy and warm with widely scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms. All right, so that is it for us today, folks. Hope you all have a wonderful weekend. I'll be back on Monday with more Morning Blend business, following Morning Blend right here on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight, Strachan, be safe. Stay tuned for On the Clock with Aaron Green coming up next.
Switch for better when you move your mortgage to Scotiabank. Leave behind that old mortgage plan and open the door to a low interest rate. No payments for up to 2 months and cash back of 2.5% of the mortgage amount up to US $10,000. And guess what? It gets better. Apply for your Scotiabank credit card and enjoy a low 9.99% introductory rate for the first 6 months. Switch for better and upgrade your mortgage today with Scotiabank. Offer ends June 30th, 2022.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.